So, welcome to our practice together, just a few of us. It's like a semi-private, or maybe even a private. It's just kind of fun. Pay more attention to each of you. We're going to start our practice lying on back. So I'll get you to lie down on your back and have your firm blocks by your side if need be, because in lying down, I want you to cross one shin in front of the other. So you have the outer edges of your feet down and slowly lowering yourselves. So you have the option of having a firm block supported your outer leg, or if it's just comfortable with the external rotation, you can just take yourselves into Buddha Konasana, which is the soles of your feet together, your knees apart, and again, using the firm block if need be. So it's quite a deep initial opening through the hip flexors. So even your hands or the heels of your hands into your hip flexors, where you feel that tightness. And again, using whatever support that makes it of more comfort in the opening. And then place your hands so they settle onto your tummy. So the awareness, the start of our practice with the breath. And as you lie onto your back, I want you to open your eyes and look up to the sky, just to ensure that you have the alignment of the head. You're not tilted a little bit more towards the right or the left. And ensuring that your jawbone is vertical. And then softly close your eyes. The starting of our practice is with the fullness of the breath. So as you draw your next breath in, breathing in through your nose, allowing a natural expansion through your belly. So not puffing it up, but just the natural filling and expanding. And the weight of your hands onto your tummy, just to encourage the release of your exhale. And do this just a few times. And as you know, the traveling of your breath allows a little bit more ease of the resting of your eyes. And slowing down from the busyness perhaps that has already arrived today. Take your arms now up to vertical, so your fingers to the sky. And then hold on to your opposite elbow. From here, taking it behind your head. And as soon as you take your arm behind your head, notice the ease of the lengthening, so the elongation of your torso, taking away any compression. Lying down allows the ease. Bring your arms now back up, right up to vertical. Bring now your palms together and down to heart center. Place your hands on the outer edges of your thighs to slowly bring your knees in and hug both of your knees into your chest. Hands onto your knees, and just do a little bit of movement. So you move them forward, out. As you know, this circular movement takes away the tightness and often a bit of a locking. Just the assistance of the hands with that movement. And from here, I want you to now cross your opposite shin in front of the other, or stay in Buddha Konasana and lowering of them down. And perhaps they'll lower a little farther down. Again, using the firm block for that support if need be. Lift your arms again back up to vertical. Okay, so your palms are facing together. I want you to turn your palms away so that your thumbs are pointing towards each other. From here, take your arms behind your back, not all the way towards the ground, part way. And just notice the natural lengthening of your torso. So not just space throughout your ribs, but the more space between your torso, allowing that lengthen to your torso and the top of your hips. This same elongation that we use with downward facing dog. It's almost as if your hands are onto the mat and your hips are lifted upright. And then bring your palms back up to vertical. Turn so your palms face to each other. With your palms together, bring them down to heart center. And then as before, take your hands on your outer thighs to encourage them back together. And then lift your arms up to the sky. So there'll be a little bit of a bend on your knees, and just go for a little bit of a walk. And then take your legs up to stillness of vertical and make some little circles. So just little circles, opposed to too much opening. Almost like you're drawing circles, chalk on the sidewalk. And draw your knees into heart center. You're going to bring yourselves into sitting upright. So see if you can rock forward and back. You can always roll over towards the right if it feels a little bit better on your back. And then sitting, I want you to extend your legs forward. Now with your legs forward, take your hands behind your buttocks and draw them back to allow your hips to tilt forward, so the lengthening of the torso. And then place your hands by your side and close your eyes. This is called Dandasana. So the same alignment. As we were lying onto the back, the jawbone was vertical. Now, in sitting tall, your jawbone horizontal. And as you know, slightly tucking your chin back to allow that lengthening, the whole length of your spine to the back of your head. So your inner thighs are drawn together. So even sitting upright, it's not just the strength of the torso, but also the legs, keeping the back of your legs flat towards the mat. And then take your right ear to your right shoulder, making the alignment for the opening that's best for you. And your hands down towards the mat. So not pressing down as if you're squeezing, flattening, but more moving them down to allow the assistance of lengthening your spine and the ease of your ear towards your shoulder. And then bring your head back up to center, and we'll change sides. Left ear to left shoulder. And I find often pressing a little bit more on your left hand ensures that the left side of your body isn't collapsing. You have that equal growing and lengthening on both sides of your torso. And then bring yourselves back up to center. Place your hands on your thighs and just give your thighs a little rub. So back up into sitting tall. I want you to take your hand across, right or left, and place your other palm behind you. So as your palm is pressing down, again to sit tall, depending on the length of your arms and your torso, maybe a little bit more into your fingertips. Not to the point though that your shoulders lift up. You've got that space. And as you know, softly turning to the side. Just peek back towards your feet to make sure one isn't farther forward. You're staying neutral. And then just close your eyes. So your torso is activated. And drawing everything into center and allow that soft turning. One vertebrae on top of the other and then the turning. Make sure both of your sitting bones stay down. And then we'll change. So settling of your hand onto your opposite legs, outer leg. Hand behind you, whichever support for the lifting and yet keeping your shoulders neutral, and the soft turning. Starting the turning from nearing the lower part of your spine, so the lower part of the lumbar part of your spine, the turning. It's almost a sense of turning and lifting. Still keep your legs activated like a magnet is drawing them down to the mat. And then unwind. Just to release, place your hands on the outer edge of your mat with your knees bent and just softly wrap your hands around, or your shins around the front, and the forearms around the front of your shins. I think I'll ever get that right. And a little bit of shaking of your head. Even tucking your chin a little bit more towards your chest to give that lengthening through your upper spine. Just make sure your shoulders stay soft, even allowing the inner edges of your shoulder blades to rest, opposed to being drawn in towards your spine, that natural space. And then bring yourselves into upright. And I'll get you to transfer forward into a table pose. So as you know, at the table pose, your shins down. Make sure that your heels haven't flopped out. Okay, and ensure your shoulders are directly above your elbows directly above your wrists. And I want you to just very softly sway your hips side to side. Now in doing so, you can bend your elbows, but I don't want you directing your hips towards the floor, just a little bit of swaying side to side. And then taking the movement to forward and back, so just gently gliding, so your shoulders will be just in front of your wrists, and then gliding back. It's that initial ironing in the morning. And then back into neutral, and a soft cat and cow. So the fullness of your breath in, your belly is lowering, your shoulder blades back and down towards your back of your hips. And then that movement. And tailbone down, head to hang. The rhythm of the movement of your body with the traveling of your breath. Enjoying this. So opposed to forcing and extending how far you could go. Just more, it's like the soft waves. At the end of your next exhale, bring yourselves back to stillness. And take your hands just a little farther forward. Tuck your toes under. And take your sitting bones towards your heels. Remember that lengthening as we're lying onto the back with our arms extended behind us. There was that extension through your torso. Arms are straight. A little shifting forward and then lifting your sitting bones up for downward facing dog. So you can make it a little bit shorter. I want your head to hang. So you can take yourselves back to the lengthening from your lower floating ribs to the top of your hips and go for a little bit of a walk. So you have that extension. All four sides of your palms down, still ensuring the connection of the palms of your fingers and yet the ball of your index finger down. Now in downward facing dog, I want you to take yourselves into stillness. So your heels towards the mat. They might not reach the mat, but that's okay. Keep your right leg still, your heel as it is, but lift your left heel up high. Encouraging a little bit more so of your right heel towards your mat. Now we'll change sides. So slowly lowering your left heel down, but lifting of your right.
And just holding in the stillness, so not walking, just holding and encouraging. And then from here, I want you to just slowly walk forward to the front of the mat, your knees softly bent, and hold onto your opposite elbow, but the funny way. So do it how you normally do it, and then the other way, and take yourselves to that gentle rocking. Give your head a little shake. Allow the tightness to just pour off your spine. Releasing any tightness through the shoulders, and allow the softness of your arms. Allow your hands to drop. We're going to ragdoll up. So first start a little bit more bending at the knees. Head as heavy as can be. And slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae. And we're slow, bringing yourselves into standing upright. As you're stacking one vertebrae on top of the other, keep it spaced so you can stand even taller. And once your spine is vertical, sweep your arms out to the side, right up to vertical, palms together, and down to heart center. Arms down, eyes closed. So do first actually just a little bit of rolling of your shoulders, and the tightness perhaps that builds up from downward facing dog is putting that movement back in. And a little bit of swaying of your arms forward and back. And then allowing the stillness of your arms. Now you just turn your wrists in circular movement, releasing the pressure that can build up in downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then take your body back into stillness. So of course there's the movement with the breath, but the stillness of the rest of your body. Neck long, eyes closed, just settling onto your mat. And then softly open your eyes. I want you to keep all four sides of your right foot rooted down, and then just lifting of your opposite leg and taking your ankles in a circular movement. The importance of the strength of your ankle, because as you know, with our balancing, the first place that moves is through the ankle. So developing the awareness, but also the strength. And then let's change sides. So this time lifting up your opposite leg, and that lovely. So if you want to, you can always borrow a wall nearby if the balance isn't right there. And then place your foot down. From here, softly bend your knees and sweep your arms forward. Not up, but forward. With the straightening of the legs, lift your hands up to the sky. So the verticalness and the lengthening of your spine. And again, swan dive down. And as you hold it down, place your hands, start with the hands onto the thighs, our first lift. So in breath, hands to thighs, lifting up halfway. We have horizontalness. And then exhale, softly pour down. Keep a soft bending of your knees. 2 more times. Choosing the height of your hands on your legs for a half lift up. Keep your core activated, but the releasing and ease on your exhale. The strength of your muscles and through your legs. 1 more lovely half lift up. And then placing of your hands down onto the mat, take yourself back into child's pose. And in child's pose, your arms forward, turn your palms up. Now you have the option of using a firm block underneath your head, and just the movement of your fingers through your hands. And then shift yourselves forward into table pose. I want you to have your two firm blocks up in vertical by your side. Just allows a little bit more ease of stepping your left foot forward. Just taking yourselves into the low lunge. So planting of your foot down and bending of your front knee. And then I want for you to wiggle your toes on your front foot to slide it a little farther forward. And then settling down a little farther down. So you're really opening up the hip flexor. And then moving your foot in the front as the moving of your toes allows it to be a little bit deeper. And as you know, just a reminder, your back foot, more weight onto your big toe to ensure that the heel hasn't fallen off to the side. You can keep your hands on the firm blocks or place your hand onto the knee to bring yourselves up. So again, find that focal spot to keep the balance. Just for the awareness, lift your shoulders up to your ears, slide them back and down. And again, your hands can stay as they are, or take your hands behind your back, interweave your fingers, and direct your knuckles down towards the mat. So encouraging of your shoulder blades together, not squeezing so your chest puffs forward, but more the opportunity, a little bit more broadening across the front of your upper chest. The smoothing and the balance, but always the care. From here, I want you to place the firm block over towards the right. We're going to do a little bit of a twist. Have your firm block on the side or the lowest level and just off your mat to the right. Left hand onto your left knee. Give yourselves a little bit of a twist. So still keeping the stillness from your hips down. The only movement is from your hips up in the turning. And whichever variation with this. You can keep your hand onto your knee, onto your sacrum. Maybe up to the sky. Just keep your core activated and long. And place your hand back onto your knee. We're going to go into the usual reverse. So slowly straighten with your front leg. Foot off the mat. And just in this changing of position, how did it feel on your right hip? So we did our right hip flexor. So we were extending and lengthening, and then just transferring to the extension from your hip flexor to the back, the hamstring of your opposite leg. So now in doing that, I want you to just slide a little farther forward, just as we had done in table pose, just a little bit of movement, eventually taking yourselves into the stillness and settling. Head to hang. And choosing again which height of the firm blocks. It could be tall, side, or flat. And often it's a reminder of the length of the neck. So take your shoulders up towards your ears and then draw them back. And the bottom inner edges of your shoulder blades slightly together. So of course our attention is to the tightness of the hamstrings, but the importance of the alignment of the whole body. As before, take the firm block over towards the right and place your left thumb in your left hip flexor and twist over to the side. So hand on towards your hip flexors to ensure that your hip doesn't draw out. So you're keeping that length. Even looking over your shoulder towards the back of the mat. And then let's unwind. And take your firm blocks up to vertical. See if we can do an ease of a switching. So tuck your back toes under. Pick your back knee up and then switch. Step your left foot back
and your right foot forward. And untuck your back toes. And then making your adjustment. So your knee is directly above your ankle. Hip flexor is long. And with any of the poses, take yourselves into initial pose and then that fine tuning of the alignment. And then from here, choosing the height, hands can be onto the firm blocks or on towards your knee. If it's on towards your knee, press your knee down to lift your chest up. Breath is full. And then perhaps staying here or interweaving your fingers behind your back, interweave them the funny way, the way you're not used to. A sense of growing from your torso, from below your belly button, growing up. Perhaps your gaze up as well, the front of your throat a little bit longer than the back. It's that sense of growing from your belly button all the way up towards the end of your chin. And from here, unwind, or bring yourselves up. Left hand from the firm block out towards the left, right hand onto your right knee, and encouraging the left side of your ribs to scoop under. Still keeping your hip flexor really long. And again, whichever variation you choose. Hand onto your knee, lower back, fingers under the shoulder to lifting at the elbow or maybe up to vertical. Find the one that's the most combination of comfort and opening without any strain. As soon as there's strain, it takes away from the opening and tightens up all the muscles. And then from here, untwist and slowly straightening out your right leg and drawing your toes towards your shin. And then again, a little bit of that movement. Eventually bringing yourselves into stillness. Okay, I just had this thought. I was on the hammock the other day and there was that swaying side to side, eventually into stillness. It was kind of like that soft swaying and eventually into stillness. I love it can sort of blend together things we do throughout the day and then how it's a similarity yet different without our yoga movements and poses. And so allowing that extension, the lengthening of the back of your your right hamstring, allowing that length. It's the opposite direction. As you're encouraging your right thigh bone to be long, still keeping the top of the thigh bone into the hip socket, back. And at the same time, encouraging your front heel forward. So it's that opposite direction. So lengthening from your knee forward towards your heel at the same time, moving from your knee back through your hamstrings. And then we're going to take it into a turn. So take the firm block off towards the left with your hand on it. Keep the extension of your front leg. That stillness from below your belly button and just turning just above your belly button over towards the side. And again, you keep your hand onto your leg, sacrum, shoulder, or vertical. It's a little bit deeper this way, so allow the carrying. And not tilting your weight over towards the left, keeping that connection down, upper chest moving towards the side, and whichever variation of the legs. Hand, elbow, shoulder. And then from there, unwind. I get you to bend your front knee and take your firm blocks up to the vertical. Tuck your back toe under to lift your knee up and 1 or 2 steps forward to the front of the mat. Now, as you're folded forward at the front of the mat, I want you to keep your right leg straight and strong and generously bend your left knee. You have the firm blocks, whichever height. And holding that stillness of your right leg gives a little bit more ease of
Stretching the hamstrings, you've already been there. And just ensuring that complete passiveness through your right leg. And then we'll change sides. So the slow straightening of your left leg and the bending of your right knee. And then go for a little bit of a walk, going for a stroll. And then place your hands onto your hips. Again, your knees soft, hinge to standing upright. And roll your shoulders a few times. Then from here, bring the inner edges of your feet together. And we'll take ourselves back into Tadasana. But with the eyes closed, there's the awareness of balance. The focal spot, keep it inside. So keeping the stillness of your eyes, as with the stillness of your eyelids. At the same time, drawing your inner thighs together to give the strength and the stability as the trunk of a tree. And then open your eyes. So I want you to go onto your left tippy toes, okay? And take your arms out just a little bit. So as before, lifting up the foot to move the ankle, I want you to lift it up higher with your foot flexed, as if you're taking up onto a big step high. And there's that movement, the adjustment through your standing right ankle. Use the strength from your foot up so your legs are activated, not locked, with the balance. You can keep your hands out to the side or exploring if you bring your palms together at heart center. So the movement of your palms together is the same movement of your inner thighs, both of them being drawn in to give the stability and strength. Lower your arms down. Lower your leg down. And give your opposite foot a little bit of a shake. A little bit of balance. And then we'll change sides. So see if you can spread your left toes far apart. And step by step, first starting by being onto your right tippy toes. Arms out to the side. And then the slow lifting. This time the lifting with your foot flexed. So opposed to locking and straightening of your standing left leg, there's a very subtle bending just to allow the adjustments with the balance. And you keep your arms out to the side or maybe bringing your palms together at heart center. This time, of course, visually finding a focal spot, something in front of you just past the mat to give you that stillness of what you're looking at, to bring the stillness of the body. And lower your arms down. Lower your leg down. And a little shaking of the other leg. From here, we'll go into a warrior two. So I want you to face to the side of the mat, open your legs into a V. Have your two firm blocks in front of you. And that space between your feet. Fine little detail, just to remember, is often, you just watch, often as we're turning one towards the side and bending. Actually, no, do it with me. So your feet are parallel with the outer edges of the mat. Hands onto your hip, and pivot one leg, your right or your left, and bend the knee. And the first bending, it's difficult to not have your knee towards the outer edges of your foot. So straighten it and turn it back. So just as we had started, toes towards the mat. Now, your back foot, I want you to take your heel a little closer towards the back of the mat. So there's only an angle of maybe 20%. And then turn your opposite foot forward and bend the knee. And just notice right away, it allows a little bit more alignment, taking away the collapsing of the knee. Fine little detail. And extend your arms out to the side. Arms are long, and then take your gaze just past your fingers. So as you're doing so, you have the horizontalness of the arms, the growing of our torso. Okay. Arms are strong. So your back leg is as strong as your front leg. And feel the different muscles, of course, as your front knee is bent, feeling it through your thighs and your buttocks. The back leg is a little bit lower down on your legs, through perhaps just a little bit above your knee. And see if you can take the power of both legs. A different angle, but still the strength. Stillness, attention, and your breath. Make sure the breath stays flowing. Now, stay in this position. I want you to cross your left arm over your right to give yourselves a hug, and perhaps into eagle. Perhaps either the back of your hands together or your palms together. And look down to make sure your front knee is staying bent and strong. And breathe. And fly your arms back up into warrior two. Straightening of the leg and turn your toes to the side of the mat. And from here, making the adjustments so the outer edges of your feet are parallel with the outer edge of the mat. Shake out. So we'll go to it on the opposite side. So if you remember, your back heel, so this time you're opposite, a little bit more towards the back of the mat, and then pivot your front and bend the knee. And right away, there's the ease of the opening through the hip flexor, opening through your inner thigh, and extend your arms out into warrior two. Blending together the verticalness of the spine, horizontalness of your arms. Horizontalness is your bent front thigh, and yet the lovely angle of your back leg. Just a little awareness and observation. And the settling. And perhaps bending of your front bent knee, or maybe back a little bit. Sort of find the distance of the two. And as you're doing so, your back thigh, it's almost like encouraging your back thigh back. And the scooping of your front thigh externally rotating to keep that opening. And the settling. And the position of your shoulders. Now we're going to change that because I want you to cross front arm underneath your left or underneath the other. And then choosing which variation of eagle pose that you're in. And then take yourselves into stillness. Now, of course, there's the movement of the breath, the stillness of your body, almost the stillness of your eyes, not looking around, but staying within. Open your arms again, back into warrior two. Straightening of your leg, turning your toes towards the mat. So this time having the outer edges of your feet parallel with the outer edge of the mat. And give your little shake, shake. And we're going to forward fold from here. So we're going to do a little bit of speed skating. So have your firm blocks in front of you. Hands onto your hips. So the hands onto your hips can assist the hinging. So opposed to the collapsing down, the hinging. Keep your torso long, just as we do in downward facing dog, and softly lower yourselves down to the firm blocks at whichever height, and then a little speed skating. So just that slow movement. Now perhaps with ease, your hands, the blocks are on its lowest level, maybe on towards the floor, just a little bit of the movement. Now, we're going to take it a little step further from here. As you bend your knee either to right or left, I want you to take your opposite foot and pivot it so your toes will be up towards the sky. And then that movement. Just taking it a little bit deeper. So as you're pivoting and taking your leg out to the side, maybe lowering a little farther down. Now, caring for your knees, perhaps it's a little bit, find that place that it's got that opening. If your knees aren't as happy bending, then just as more of that a rotation of the foot for the external rotation, just take it a little bit deeper. And then bring yourselves back into stillness. Having the support of the firm blocks at whichever height they may be. And allow that lengthening. Your knees aren't locking straight, but just a very gentle bend. So, staying at this height, staying folded forward as much as you are, take a little tiptoes of your feet a little closer together. And then perhaps your feet a little closer together. So take yourselves from open into a V, Bring your legs more into vertical. Now, they may not reach together, but allows more ease with your legs apart to lower your head down. But we want to keep that stillness, again, from your waist to your head with just a slow movement. And then give your head a little shake. However close you have brought your feet together, but keeping the firm blocks at the same height. And then I want you to do is place your hands onto your calves and walk your feet together, head to hang, and give your calves and your ankles a little bit of massage. All of the standing, the opening, the turning. It's always nice. Feeling of your muscles. And notice that we've been using them and there might be a little bit of tightness. Just the movement of your hands to allow whatever loosen need be. And then I'll get you to just travel yourselves back down into child's pose. So softly bending of your knees. Toes together. Knees only far enough apart that they support your outer ribs. And again, choose whichever position of your arms. They can be forward, palms up, palms down, towards your little toe, support under your head as need be. And settle. And if your sitting bones don't connect towards your heels, then keep yourselves a little farther forward. Okay? Just giving yourselves that space as need be. Keep your knees happy as can be. And bring yourselves up into table pose. And extend your legs forward. So I want you to have your firm blocks in front of you and place your feet onto the firm blocks. Sometimes maybe it's easier if they're pointing forward. So you can have all four sides of your feet down. Okay. And your hands behind your thighs. So just a little bit of awareness. In the classes before, someone was saying they're feeling it more through the hip flexor. So the importance of activating your core. So what I want you to do is tilt back a little bit and draw your belly button towards your spine. So you're doing that compression through your torso and keeping your body still, but extend your arms forward and seeing if you feel it more around your belly button than your hip flexor. Then shift yourselves forward. Place your hands again on the back of your thighs. Tilt yourselves back, and again, belly button towards your spine. At the same time, almost a sense as the scooping of your tailbone under. Fire up the core, keeping it there, and the only movement is your shoulders forward, and yet your hands forward, but your shoulders slightly back. Finding that tight spot. And then maybe up onto your tippy toe or your toes, or maybe floating. Now breathe. Perhaps spin a little bit more with the hip flexor. No collapsing, more energy. And then from there, take the soles of your feet together, your knees apart, onto those firm blocks, and just softly fold forward and down. A little bit more opening through your inner thighs. If it's too much, then just don't have your feet onto the firm blocks. Take the firm blocks off to the side. And just allowing that lovely passiveness and ease through your torso. From boat pose, Navasana, all these fun poses to remember. And then bring yourselves up. Hands draw your knees together. And then I want you to take yourselves back into Dandasana, where we had been near the beginning of the class. Legs are long and strong, palms are down. And sitting tall, the verticalness of the spine as we do in standing Tadasana. But now sitting with stillness and your eyes closed. And then open your eyes. So we're going to go into, I'm going to direct it into pigeon pose, but you can also stay into deer pose if you know that's better. So pigeon pose, of course, as you know, deer pose is one shin in front of the mat, the other one back. Just if you're having discomfort with your knees or exploring to see if pigeon pose can be happy, even though it's a stretch. Take yourselves into table pose. And what I want you to do is tilt both of your feet over towards the right. So you've almost got a little bit of that angle. Now you've tilted it towards the right. I want you to take your right leg behind and slide it away to take yourselves down into table pose. Keeping your hips off the mat. So when you've started, you've got that neutralness of the hips, the shifting of the legs, the extending back, keeping your hips square and lowering down. Just ensure that your front bent knee, your buttocks is not on towards the mat. Now, if you're feeling that discomfort with your front knee, then you can just take yourselves, I have to switch sides so you can see, back into deer pose. And again, just a little fine adjustment. With deer pose, sometimes you need a little bit of cushion for your sitting leg, or having yourselves into the pigeon pose. Now there's always that small adjustment into deer pose, making sure the top of your thigh bones are staying plugged into your hip socket. With that support and stability, allow the opening of the buttocks. It's the same as being into pigeon pose. Your extended back right leg, softly slide it forward to hold that neutralizing, and then ensure that you allow that passiveness through the hip that you're opening, even your extended right hip flexor. And then just settle down, whichever variation you chose for the hip opening. Into deer pose, which I don't know the Sanskrit name, or pigeon pose, Ekapada Raja Kapottanasana. Allowing that elongation and softness through your torso. Head can be heavy, either onto a firm block, or sometimes even, I didn't say this, but even having your forearms onto the firm block, if that's as far down perhaps that you'll be traveling today. And just finding that spot, either in pigeon or into deer pose. Settling into ease. Throughout any time you choose to go into this pose, you need a little bit of a stretch. Make sure that traveling into this pose, that you don't go from an activity or busyness right into this pose. And just in the future, sometimes even a downward facing dog just to loosen things up. A little bit of a forward fold. This is a lovely deep pose, but opposed to diving into it and then just feeling more tightness and discomfort. Loosen up those joints and then slowly settle into this pose. And then we're going to change sides. So in doing so, I want you to just shift yourselves off to the side so that you can swing both of your feet forward. Sorry. And feeling that extension, and just put a little bit of slow movements of windshield wiping of your knees side to side. And then we'll change sides. So if you're going into pigeon pose, enter it from table pose. Sometimes a little swaying of your hips. And deer pose, as you know, take your opposite shin. Now from table pose, you tilt your knees over towards the left And then take your left leg behind you.
And sometimes even coming into this pose, keeping the straightness of your arms, just to make your adjustments of the alignment, awareness where the tightness is. And then perhaps, the assistance of the firm blocks, slowly start to lower yourselves down. And even this time, just slightly tucking your chin in a little bit towards your chest to ensure that you're having the ease through the back of your body. Your trapezoid, the muscles around the lumbar part of your spine, even into deer pose. Ensure the settling of the body and the folding forward towards the firm blocks. Add that angle towards your bent front knee, or more so that you're folding forward over the horizontalness of your front shin. That's with deer pose. So as you guys know, all those little fine adjustments and then the settling and then checking to see if you're still having the opening or if your body is taking yourselves a little bit off to allow it to be a little bit, almost a sense of being able to lower yourselves farther down. Body makes the adjustment to focus on that, but forgetting about the alignment. So all these little details. In any pose that we go into, you take yourselves to the sticky part, wait there, and then perhaps lower yourselves a little farther down, or not, just sort of finding that opening. And then breathe and enjoy. And all the muscles through your legs are passive. The strength of your bones are holding the alignment, and then allowing the passiveness and ease through where you find the gripping of the muscles. Still using your muscles to hold your alignment, but where there's a sense of gripping, see if you can release, and maybe even just coming up a little bit more allows that release of the lovely pose. And then slowly bringing yourselves up, shifting your hip to the side, bringing your legs forward, and that lovely sway. And then from here, I'm going to lay back down onto the mat. So if you have a blanket nearby that you'll want to use for Shavasana, or sometimes it's nice having behind the back of the head. Firm blocks just at the side of your mat. And roll down. And right away feel the hip flexors that you've been opening, as well as the buttocks, and draw your knees in towards your chest, and just take yourselves for a little bit of the movement. Eyes closed, face up towards the sky, and the movement. Just move it with your legs into the hip flexor. I'm going to travel from here into a bridge pose. So have both of your firm blocks with you. I'm going to do it through a few steps. First step we're going to do is I want you to take the firm block and place it between your knees. So your knees are bent, your heels are directed towards your sitting bones. Little movement of your torso, having that whole back surface of your shoulder blades onto your mat, the back of your head. And again, open your eyes to ensure that you're looking right up towards the sky. Having that equal lengthening of the front and the back of your legs, or your neck. And then taking your arms into robot. So robot is the back of your upper arms onto the mat. Even encouraging your elbows a little bit in towards your torso. I want you to flare your fingers apart. So start with the energy. Pressing equally onto both feet, lift your hips up. So the firm block is between your knees to encourage that drawing of your knees into center without the flaring up. And then walk your shoulder blades a little closer together. But keep the front of your neck long. So with the lifting of your hips,
your torso. It's that direction of your chest towards your chin, opposed to your chin towards your chest. So your legs are activated, thighs hugging the firm block in. Your buttocks are activated but without gripping, but enjoying the length in the front of your torso. Of bridge pose. From here, lift your heels up to allow the ease of gently lowering of your spine down. And then keep the firm block between your knees, your feet onto the mat, and your arms just rest by your side. I'm going to travel back into bridge pose again. So keeping the firm block between your knees. Start first with robot. Pressing the back of your upper arms up, lifting of your hips. You can stay with your arms in robot, or the option of perhaps interweaving your fingers behind your back, interweaving in a funny way, the way that you're not used to, and pressing your feet down, lengthening of your hip flexor, lifting of your pelvic, keeping of your chest open, and breathe. So just checking that you have equal weight on both of your feet, the smoothing and lengthening of your hip flexor, which we've opened quite a few times, the filling of your chest, neck is long, breath is slow. And then as before, lifting of your heels and lowering your back down. Then from here, take the firm block that's between your knees. We're going to scoop it under. So entering into bridge pose, the lifting of the hips, and then placing the firm block underneath your sacrum. So make sure it's not touching the lumbar part of your spine or more weight onto your buttocks, but just that lovely surface. And then your arms just rest by your side. And with this pose, always lots of options, and keep your knees softly bent, or perhaps start to walk your feet away. Each step you take, there's more lengthening through the hip flexor. Just make more caution that you're not lengthening of the hip flexor with the shrinking of the lumbar part of your spine. So it's encouraging your belly button towards your spine to give you that stability as your feet walk away. And then just be a few steps, 4 steps, 5 steps, maybe the lowering the whole length of your legs. And just enjoy the passiveness and yet the opening. The rhythm of your breath, the length of your body, and the ease throughout. And as you're ready, if not already, walk your feet in. Press down on your feet to lift your hips high enough up that you can lower down. Keep your feet on the ground, knees bent, and windshield wipe them side to side. For Savasana, there's lots of options. One is to just lower your legs down towards the mat with your feet a little bit farther apart. Sometimes it feels better having a bolster or a blanket underneath the back of your knees. Or another option is to have your 2 firm blocks underneath your calves. I think we've never done this before. So it supports the back of your calf, but your feet float. Even so, ensuring that your feet are a little bit, your legs are a little bit farther apart. All these little fine adjustments. So it's a blending together of your body is heavy onto your mat and yet the lightness. A little bit of softening through the hip flexor,
Spread your toes apart, whichever variation that you're at. Spread your toes far apart and then allow them to be passive. And with stillness from your feet, the whole length of your legs, open your fingers wide apart and then allow your hands to just almost become limp. The back of your head resting onto the mat or a blanket, and the ease of your eyes to sink deep, and using of your eyelids to be a blanket to hold the stillness and take away any of the brightness of the dull busyness. And as you know, the soft connection of your eyelids as well as the lids of your lips with the resting of your tongue for your Shavasana. Awareness with your breath, inviting your breath in, releasing your breath out. And you can still stay laying in Shavasana as long as you want, or taking yourself from the stillness and horizontalness to rolling over to your right side. Ending of your practice, which feels right. And then choosing from there to lay or bringing yourselves into sitting upright. And sitting upright with your legs crossed, position of comfort, whatever lifting or supporting. Put your hands to softly settle onto your thighs. And keep your breath with that rhythm. And staying, laying and still. Or if you're sitting upright, bring your palms together and into heart center. And then that slow bowing of your head, always bowing to the light within. And our lives have ebbs and flows, ends and beginnings, are illusions. Starting over is nothing more than recognizing the pause before, picking up your thread and continuing to weave our own story. The ending and yet the beginning, and the beginning with the travel and yet always learning, as we know we are all in a time of change, moving forward but learning from behind. The threading of the needle, the sewing, the picture of what is ahead. I wish you namaste. Whatever position that you're in, stay there. Big breath with ease. Thank you everyone for practicing with me for a while now and continuing through traveling through the practices we've already done, or perhaps moving forward to outside or maybe Glen Eagle, whatever works for everyone. So enjoy the rest of your day. As you guys know, you all have my text or my emails if you have any questions, or if there was a class you'd like to practice again, or what's moving forward with the yoga, please let me know. So take care, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Erica. It's been wonderful. Definitely, definitely. And hopefully we'll see each other at Glen Eagles and on the beach. Bye.